Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. If you watched my previous video about how to zoom in on a video clip using keyframes, then you're going to like this one about using keyframes on titles for all kinds of special effects. Welcome back once again to Power Director Made Simple. On my timeline, you can see the opening scene that you always see on all of my videos for YouTube. It is saved as a video clip and set as an available intro scene as part of the brand kit so that I can use it over and over again. Now let's look at how this was created because it shows the use of keyframing in the display of titles. I'll move the clip over to the right on the timeline just to make room for new stuff. I'll start by dragging down to the timeline just a plain text title, and then I'm going to increase it to a 7-second duration time because that is what seems to work best for my opening videos. I'll then hit F2 to bring that title into the advanced title editing window. I'll right-click on a blank area in the preview window and select Insert New Background. I'm going to choose the file intro_background.jpg and then click Open and then click on Stretch. I'll right-click on the background in the preview window again and select Insert New Image. I'll select the pdms.png. If you haven't figured it out, that stands for Power Director Made Simple. And then I'll click OK. I'm going to resize it down somewhat and move it towards the upper left corner. Notice on the timeline that an image has no provisions for setting keyframes, but when it's selected, I can set certain parameters shown over on the left side, including a fade in and fade out, which appear on the line as slightly darker areas. I can manipulate the duration of the fades by moving either the ending or beginning to an appropriate time limit, such as 1:15 for the fade in and 5:00 for the fade out. That leaves the one and only title object on the timeline, which I'll click on to select it. I'll change the text on the upper left side to read Power Director Made Simple. And I'll use a carriage return so that it takes up two different lines. I'll click OK for now to close the editing window. And then I'm going to move the playhead on top of the existing video file so that I can take a quick look at the display of the font, which is black characters with a white border and a gold shadow. Now I want to change the font properties in the title so that it looks much like the MP4 file. I'll go back into the editing window again, and this time I'm going to click on Styles on the left side, where I'll pick the first preset, black with a white border. I'll click on Properties, and then I'm going to change the font to Abro Fatface, which appears with two others as part of my brand kit choices. I'll then change the font size to 36, which I already know matches what appears in the video. Now the normal line spacing seems too much here, so I'm going to change it to -8. The only thing left is the gold shadow color. I'll click the box for shadow and then click on the eyedropper tool to pick a special gold color, so I'll move it over to the camera icon in the preview window, where I'll click on one of the darker gold triangles and then click OK. I'll change the shadow direction to 90 degrees. Now maybe the shadow just isn't appearing enough to my liking, so I'm going to increase the distance to 4.0. Now for the time being, I'm going to move the title in the preview window to my ending position, which will be just to the right of the camera logo along the top. Now for the fun keyframing part. I'll first move the playhead back to start and add a keyframe for position. I'll then move the text box off the screen to the top and right. I'm going to have to move the slider bars so that I can see where it is really at. I want it to move into a viewing position fairly fast, so next I'll move the playhead to 1:15 seconds. That's a second and a half. And I'm going to add another position keyframe. Then I'm going to grab that text box and move it down to its final position. I may have to move the slider bars to bring the screen fully into view. I can then make any final adjustments for position. Now I'm going to play the clip to see how it looks. Well, so far so good. Now after it appears, I just have to make it fade away as it gets just smaller and smaller in the same position. In order to do that, I need to add some keyframes for scale in order to make it get smaller and smaller. I'm going to start the shrinking process by moving the playhead to 5 seconds. And then I'm going to add a keyframe for scale. But thinking ahead now so that I avoid that mistake shown in the last video, this is the spot where the full scale ends and the actual shrinking will begin. This is not the spot where it has completely shrunk to the minimum size. So when I look at the values on the left side for scale, they are currently at 1.0, which is what I want at this position. Now next, I'll move the playhead to the very end and place another keyframe for scale. This is the place where I want the text box shrunk down to the absolute minimum. So I'm going to click on one of the diagonal corner gadgets and draw it inward until I can't anymore. I'll reposition it to make it appear centered over where it used to be. I'll hit play to test it out. You may have noticed that it doesn't entirely disappear. I just can't do that with a text box by using the scale keyframe, but there is another way. I'll use an opacity keyframe. I'm going to move the playhead back to the 5-second position by just clicking on any one of the existing keyframes at that position, and then I'll add an opacity keyframe. Now look over on the left side and notice that the current value is 100%. I'll now move the playhead to the end and add another opacity keyframe. But for this one, I'm going to move the opacity slider bar all the way down to 0. Now I'll replay everything again. Now everything looks good, so I'll click OK and return to the main window where I can just play it again just to make sure. And as it plays out, I'll let it continue onto the already created video, and you can see that there is no discernible differences. Well, there you have it, folks. I manipulated text position, scale, and opacity, all using keyframes. Notice that the image object that appears in a title cannot be controlled by keyframes, but I can add certain effects to it, such as a fade, which coincides with the keyframes for the text. I could leave it all just like this for use in a project that I might be working on, but I want to add this to my brand kit, which means I would have to export it to create a video. Well, I've already done that, so there's no need for me to do it again in this tutorial. Now, I know a bunch of you are throwing vegetables at the monitor screen saying, "Where's the missing title of the show?" Well, let's think about that for a minute. If I were to add a title in here right now, what about the next video and the one after that? To avoid locking myself into a clip in which the name of the title would have to be changed with every video and then re-rendered again, I use an additional custom title that I have already created with nothing on it other than a video name, but is already set with the font colors and keyframing that I use to make the title appear down near the lower half and then disappear with the other text in the video. Now on my timeline, you can see it. I already have my custom title placed on track 3, but so far the video for it has been disabled. So I'm going to re-enable it now and select it and then hit F2. You should see one simple keyframe where it starts below the screen and another keyframe at the 4-second mark where the title will move upward into full view. Then a standard fade animation of 1 second at the end is applied. I'll click OK here to exit and return to the main window, where I'll now hit play to view the complete introduction. If you've been playing around with keyframes on videos, then this should all come as second nature to you now. I hope this tutorial has added a little something to your knowledge. Now give me a thumbs up for a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to leave a comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.